what I think it's going to happen is we're going to ship more features faster. So it's going to be even more of a challenge to measure if these features are having the right impact or not. Customers are already overwhelmed, right? Like all products are changing too fast, too much. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I think it's going to get worse because you're going to see a lot of interfaces that are going to be dynamic. Menus are going to appear and disappear, like boxes are going to appear and disappear. And it's going to be hard for people to understand or for us to develop the visual language to make this right. The problem happens when people ask AI to do the doing for things that
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Side and Podcast. And today I have a great guest, Marcelo, who have been working in many big tech companies as well as numerous startups, and also author of the framework for PRFAQ, and which has been released this year. So congratulations on this great milestone.
Thank you for having me, Anna.
So maybe let's start with your path and your journey. What has been like turning point in your career that made you the where you are right now?
Yeah, so I am originally from Brazil and I got a computer science degree. And shortly after that, I joined Microsoft. So Microsoft hired me in Brazil, brought me to the US. So I spent 7 years working there. Most of the time was working on Bing, the search engine. Then I left Microsoft because I was thirsty for more innovation. And I spent 18 years building startups, both in US and in Europe. After that, I spent a couple of years at Amazon, then left and wrote a book about one of Amazon's innovation framework called the PRFAQ, and released the book recently.
And maybe we can discuss, or you can walk through core concepts that are kind of building blocks of the framework, and how does it help to align the team around the vision and the strategy for the product?
Yeah, so PRFAQ stands for Press Release and Frequently Asked Questions. And although it has press release in the name, it's not a marketing tool. It's actually a product and a strategy tool. And it was invented by Amazon 20 years ago to make better decisions, to make sure that the product was addressing the needs of the customer, to make sure that everyone collaborated into a better strategy. And the way it works is you have a framework, like a document artifact that you create. You have a process to create this and how to use it, how you review with people, how do you seek feedback. And then you have a style of writing called precise writing. So these three things combined is what makes the PRFAQ framework. And most people talk about the framework itself. So if you go to Google and search for PRFAQ framework, you're going to find like lots of articles of people that explain this 6-page document that Amazon uses. But that is just one portion of it. What this document is starts with a press release that is written as if what you wanted to do is already done. Right? So it's a future press release. So you're writing a press release that is maybe a year from now, and you speak about today we are launching this product that's going to solve this customer's problem, yada, yada, yada. And everything in the document is based on that, right? So the idea is you want to paint a picture of the future and go around with your team, with your engineering team, design, executives, everyone, and say like, is this the future that we want? Right? And we have the right steps to get there. It's not a plan. It's not like a roadmap of like, this is what we're going to do this quarter. This is what we're going to do that quarter. It's just like, these are the strategic decisions that we're going to make. Is it going to be mobile or is it going to be desktop first? Are we, going to launch in one country or all the countries? Like these are important strategic decisions that you need to think early on before you start executing, even building a roadmap.
During preparation or writing this document, there is a lot of homework and work done to make it happen, like to write this document. So it's not like you sit and you imagine how this future will look like. And even if there are some blocks or specific methodology or sections, let's say, in the document that you want to highlight, you will not be inventing things.
That's a great way to put it, right? So basically what you're doing is you are drafting a document, so people have a starting point, right? It's a straw man proposal that you put in front of folks and then you start debating like, is this the best solution? Is this the right problem? Is this the right like marketing and go-to-market strategy?
how this tool can help us to evaluate opportunities, because there could be multiple. It doesn't mean that we will create multiple PRFAQs documents to compare them.
It really depends on the stage of your business, of your product, right? So there are like different types of PRFAQ. So the earliest type of PRFAQ is you have identified a potential problem and a potential solution, but you don't know if the problem really exists. So you might need to go and do some customer discovery around the problem. Is this problem worth solving? Is it big enough? Are customers solving it already? So this might be a PRFAQ very early on before you even say like, yeah, I'm going to build this startup or I'm going to build this product. If you don't know the problem exists, you should pause. Like go figure out that first, right? Assuming that you have identified a problem, either an opportunity or a challenge. Now what you have is you have facts about that problem and you have hypotheses about the solution. So during the PRFAQ, you're going to work on that hypothesis, right? And you're going to come out of the PRFAQ with the best hypothesis that you can. Still a hypothesis. You haven't built anything. You haven't proved it, right? But it is a hypothesis that the team feel like this feels like the right direction. So let's try to move on that direction. And by the way, a PRFAQ should be like a week or two of work, right? You're not talking about months or quarters to do this. So then you start executing and you learn if that solution is feasible, if customers really value or not. And if they do, like, fantastic. If they don't, then you have to get back. You say like, well, we tried and it didn't work. Let's pivot, right? And that's where the word pivot come from. Like you can pivot both from a solution strategy, but also from a problem strategy. Maybe while testing the solution, you discovered the problem was not that interesting or big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like with a very volatile market, like how long can we create the strategy for? Like, is it for a year, for 3 years, or it's just like for until the next pivots, like when we learn new thing and we will change the direction and we need to still once again iterate and create new artifact to align the team on another pivot or product idea. What I also felt that this framework resonates in the terms of waterfall approach. When we align on the strategy, then build roadmap, a plan, and stick to it. So how does it fit into the agile?
Yeah, the PRFAQ works really well for waterfall projects because waterfall projects are long. They might take 18 months, 2 years, 3 years. So you do want to put effort to make the PRFAQ great. But I also would say in Lean and Agile, it's also worked well. One of the problems that I see is that people confuse what is strategy, right? And they think strategy is a plan. They have a list of things that they're going to do. And that is not strategy. Right? That is a plan. And sometimes it's even called a strategic plan, but a strategic plan is not a strategy, right? A strategy is what choices are you making in terms of the solution and the execution that's going to guide the team. So the strategy is the guardrails that are going to put on. And you on the PRFAQ, we also include the vision, right? Which is your North Star. So we're going to take this road towards that destination, but we're not going to tell what car we're going to drive, when we're going to stop, what are our milestones, what are our breaks. So in an agile environment, what you have is you go driving on the road and like you have a flat tire, no problem. Like you change the tire and you continue, right? And you're driving towards this other road and like there is some guardrails that says like, no, this is outside of the strategy of what we're doing. So you get back to the road. And this road is really like the customer problem that we're trying to address and how you envision a solution to be not in terms of features, but in terms of benefits for the customer, right? So it doesn't work if you start listing out the features because the features are going to change, just like you said, right? Maybe you have a web interface and you want to move to an AI chatbot interface. Like as long as it is within the strategy, that's totally fine. Like the PRFAQ shouldn't change. Right? You're still addressing the same problem within the same boundaries.
That actually answers my next question because you suggest not to stick to visuals. That's like stood out for me as like a person who works in agile in design agency. We create prototypes because we think that people are visual, and in order to visualize this solution in your mind, you need to have like a prototype or at least like something tangible. And there's also a story that we had. Like we worked on a project and like our CPO like adopted the framework Play to Win, and we created a huge presentation, then worked a few months on the vision prototype, put a lot of effort and thoughts, but eventually it turned out that we had not wrong assumptions, but we assumed that this product will be targeting one persona, and eventually we have changed that.
Yeah.
Like we haven't dived into strategical and like thought process around who are we targeting, like what their problems we want to solve, and so on. So that's very valuable. And like retrospectively, I think that having this approach of thinking strategically and diving into problems rather than jumping into solution, it will help us a lot.
Yeah, that's right. Once you start talking about visuals, you're already like in concrete execution mode. And people are going to be critiquing and thinking about the flows and the UI and everything else. And what you want to do that for sure, right? But before you do that, like you want to make sure that everyone is on the same page about the North Star, the strategy, what problem you're solving, the persona, like you said, everything involved with that. What jobs are the customers trying to do? Right? Before you jump into like creating. So the PRFAQ should take like a week or two before you start the project. I call this like day zero, right? It's not even day one. It's a framework for day zero. And often what happens is not necessarily on agencies, but in organizations, you write a PRFAQ and then you decide not to do the project. Because as you learn more, you realize, you know what? We have other priorities, or the opportunity is not what we thought, or the customers told us that the biggest problem they have is not this one, is that one. So like pause this PRFAQ and let's go to another one.
How do you think the framework fits into other popular frameworks for product management? Is it like complementary, or you can skip some of them? So how does it fit into the toolkit?
Yeah, it's very complementary, right? So in the book, I talk about like you use the PRFAQ with some of these other frameworks to generate ideas, right? The PRFAQ is not going to make you generate ideas. It's not a framework for that. It is a framework to decide and to capture and to know what you don't know, right? So as you write your PRFAQ, you realize, oh, wait a second, like we don't know exactly this particular aspect. We need to go use some framework to discover that, including like what is the solution. So you can use design thinking, you can use brainstorming, you can use many other frameworks with the PRFAQ.
Yeah, we also have a concept of Four Horsemen. It's like I really like that because it's like some part philosophical about how why product strategies fail and how to avoid that. And we can also like dive deeper some of them, because the first one is ignorance. So maybe you have some recommendations or frameworks, approaches that you have in order to like fill in this ignorance part.
I've been in many, many meetings where big strategic decisions were made. And a year later or 2 years later, things fail. And sometimes they fail miserably. Right. And then you walk back to like, what mistake we made, right? What were our blind spots during that time? And that's why I wrote that Four Horsemen blog post to say like, well, I see these patterns and they're really about like ignorance, ignoring like what you don't know. Arrogance, like assuming that like you have the solution and you know for sure. The misalignment, like people leave the meeting feeling like, oh, I understand what we're doing, but no one really understand. So each one going their own different direction. But either they don't want to say, or they are making a ton of assumptions and like they're going out and like thinking about certain things, right? And the last one is short-termism, which is really thinking like we're going to like sacrifice certain things for now and like to get the benefit later. Usually that doesn't work. Right, particularly if you talk about customer value. We're going to make it worse for our customers today, but it's going to be better in the long term. Like customers just going to leave, right? And I think the antidote for these things is really two things. One is empathy, particularly for the customer, but also empathy for your teammates. The second one is humility. Try to approach problems from a humility and curiosity perspective. right? Don't say like, I know for sure. Say like, I assume, or like, this is a hypothesis. Like when you use that kind of language, everyone feel comfortable around, questioning things. You have to have some conviction, right? You should have conviction in what you're doing. Otherwise, you're never going to get off the ground. You're going to have analysis paralysis. But at the same time, if you don't have conviction and be open-minded and curious about what's possible, you're going to fall into one of these four horsemen for sure.
Right now, the trends that I've noticed that unfortunately many user researchers and companies are being sacked due to AI, because you have so many instruments that like you go on a call, or first of all like collecting and processing customer feedback, bugs, and so on. Also transcript processing is also could be done by AI, synthesizing that. But it doesn't build empathy. Like empathy, it's not only about having the data about users, but also analyzing it and feeling it, basically. Like, how can you relate to people? So do you think that AI can threaten this core principle of building products with empathy and understanding real customer pain points and needs?
I do think that one of the differences that we make when we do UX research or any type of user discovery or customer discovery is that you pick up on signals that are not necessarily, what you're looking for, but they end up being very important. So many companies got started to do one product, and then halfway through, they learn about a bigger problem or a big opportunity or something interesting. And a lot of aha that we have during our product discovery comes from these weird moments that someone says something that seems irrelevant, and maybe AI would ignore completely because it would say it's off topic. But then it keeps you thinking, and like you go home and you start digesting that and wonder like, wait a second, if that's true, that could be a big problem. Are there more people like that? And then you take the product in a whole different direction. I'm not sure AI, I'm sure AI doesn't do that today. I'm not sure AI is going to do that in the next couple of years. Maybe later, if we train AI to observe those, anomalies and customer discovery. But today is not that. Today, AI is going to give you the average. It's going to average out all the customer feedback, and you're going to build the most boring product.
Yeah. You also mentioned about product discovery, and like it resonates like with continuous discovery loop. It's really hard to build it.
It is really hard. And I'll say something else, right? So AI is making designers more productive. It's making engineers more productive. It's making product managers more productive. What I think it's going to happen is we're going to ship more features faster. So it's going to be even more of a challenge to measure if these features are having the right impact or not. Because now you're doing a lot more in a shorter period of time without the amount of time for the customers to digest and process it. So it's going to be a very interesting time, in the coming years to see how customers react to that. Customers are already overwhelmed, right? Like all products are changing too fast, too much. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I think it's going to get worse before we learn how to do this the right way.
Yeah, you raised a great point. Like Cursor has released every 2 days. So every 2 days you have something new, and sometimes it changes the way. Like there is a learning curve, and there's an adaptation, and you always are in the mood like everything is changing, and customers, users don't like that.
I love UI that change that gets better, but like when a product keeps changing every month, now it makes me frustrated, right? Because it takes time to get used to a new product, a new pattern.
Definitely, that's like hot topic. And I don't know how it will be solved. Maybe the changes will be aggregated and sent in batches. Hopefully, yes. Yeah, one more interesting topic about AI prototyping and validating ideas early. What do you think the impact of this new opportunity, and should product managers, designers use it?
Yeah, I think AI prototype is great for at least two things. One is to validate feasibility of certain solutions, right? Like, can we do it, right? Like if you can build a little bit of code that proves it, then you eliminate a lot of concerns. And a lot of feasibility sometimes is about the user experience, but also about like API or data that is available or not available. Like you want to make sure that you can do what the customers want, right? So it's great for feasibility validation. The other one is usability, really, to think like, can we build this in a way that customers can use it or not? Right. And I think AI prototype like Lovable and V0 and Replit and all those are like great for you to articulate a feature in a way that is not like a PRD or a document or just like a static mock. That makes it really hard for people to understand how it's going to work. These are very tactical approaches, right? They're not about strategy. They're about like, hey, just before we decide to do this feature or not, should we spend a day or so like seeing how this could play out? And often you discover things that you wouldn't have discovered otherwise, right? It's so hard to design for all the use cases and all the corner cases. But once you have a little bit of code, like you catch this thing really quickly.
With AI advancements, like actually what we can do is have like very top-notch personalization. It will create a
Yes.
headache for implementation team, but that's possible. And on the other side, if your changes evolve and like how the product then can adjust to your needs.
I'm really excited about generative UI. The idea that the UI is going to change based on what you're trying to do. I've seen some demos recently that got like really cool, which is a mix of chatbots and UI on the fly. I think we don't know how to do that right as a society, right? I think it's going to be a lot of problem in the coming years because you're going to see a lot of interfaces that are going to be dynamic, right? Like menus are going to appear and disappear, like boxes are going to appear and disappear. And it's going to be hard for people to understand or for us to develop the visual language to make this right? It takes time. Like it took 10 years for mobile apps to look like good mobile apps before they were just like mini websites. So I think we're going to go through that phase as well. Maybe not 10 years, but it's going to take a few, years for us to do this right.
Yeah, I have two concerns about that because, as you mentioned, like mostly all AI solutions are chat based. So my concern that they will all look the same. That you start with a chat and then it provides you the output like in a kind of report or some response. So like it will be really hard to kind of stand aside. But maybe that's my fear. And the other thing that's like unpredictability and lack of control because just recently, even today, I had like this tool Granola that takes meeting notes, and there's ability to capture your meeting notes, and then AI fills it in. And I had like was very frustrated because I thought that it just rewritten my notes, and not in the way that I wanted. AI is a black box; no one knows how it works. So if we delegate everything to AI, how people will understand that you actually are in the driver's seat, not AI, and it does what you are talking or telling it to do, not vice versa.
Yeah, the interfaces that we have today are very primitive. We're going to see a big development in that arena in the next couple of years, for sure.
Maybe you can recommend for product managers and product leaders where it is really reasonable to leverage AI that will help to make your work more efficient or speed up.
Yeah, I have an opinion about it. So I'm saying it's an opinion because it might work well for me and might not work well for other people. But I think that everything that we do can be divided in three different buckets, right? The first bucket is what I call like research, brainstorming, planning, searching. Like you are working with AI to like give me ideas to do this, or like how should I think about that, right? Or like what are the steps to do this thing here? Like that's the planning. The middle part is the doing, right? The executing. So write the code, write the document, do the design, book the flight, whatever you're doing, like that's in the middle. And the last part is the feedback, the critique, the reviewing, like the testing the code, the testing the user experience, right? Or like giving feedback about, the design, anything that you can do. So you can use AI for any one of these three things or all three things. I think the problem happens when people ask AI to do the middle part, the doing, for things that they should be using their own brain to do. And writing is one of those. And I think there was other aspects like, customer discovery, for example, because what you want to do is when you're writing, your brain thinks differently, right? So you're thinking about your writing in a different way. If AI is doing the writing for you and provide you with the end result, and say, I'm just going to do the final editing, AI is going to provide you with something that is very convincing, but you didn't put the thought behind it. So if you can articulate it well, you can't defend it, you can't question it. You don't know if that was the right content in terms of strategy or in terms of direction. But if you do the writing yourself, like your brain, goes in different direction, tests different things, and like write some sentences, and you go back and erase it. So it helps you think. So there is some type of writing. I think a PRFAQ is an example like that is strategic. You don't want AI writing for you. You can use AI to help you, even to review. But you want to do the writing yourself, right? A love letter is something that you want to do the writing yourself, right? So you communicate exactly what you're feeling and not what AI thinks that you're feeling, right? You can have AI review it if you prefer. Um, so that's two examples of like, you should probably do the writing. There's other type of writing. There is no value in the writing itself, right? If you're synthesizing the content of a meeting, AI might be great for that. Like you're not thinking a lot about it. Although I would say like it helps you if you're like reviewing your own notes, like to think a little bit about it. But for the most part, it's very mechanical job. Writing your resume is something that I don't think people need to think a lot about it. They are capturing a bunch of information in a style that is good for recruiters and for system to evaluate. So AI can do a really good job of writing for that. So what I say is like use AI for everything, just avoid for the execution or the doing part where you should be doing the thinking yourself.
Mm-hmm. This brings me like a lot of PRDs or some project descriptions that we get from our founders that really look like AI generated. And I'm thinking like, this is not cool. So founders.
Yeah, PRD is an interesting document because I think there was a portion of the PRD that is very strategical in nature. So you should be doing the writing yourself. And there is a portion of the PRD that is more mechanical. So you can use AI to do it for you, but you should work on the first part really well first, right? Before you go for the AI writing the mechanical part.
Great like nuggets and recommendation. If we will wrap up and like as final thoughts for product leaders and founders as well, like both mostly startups, I think, what would you recommend to start on the journey of like thinking strategically, and what maybe resources or books, articles, podcasts you would recommend for them to get inspiration and like to learn more about like how to frame perfect strategies and to align teams on building great solutions and products?
Yeah, so I think there are several books that I can recommend about strategy. Like I like Playing to Win. I like Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. Good Strategy, Bad Strategy is probably one of the best ones out there. My book, I talk a lot about strategy and innovation as well. The PRFAQ framework. So those are good ways to learn about it. The other thing is if you can like sit in a room where strategic decisions are being made so you can learn by observing, particularly if they are good people making those strategic decisions.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for so many like aspects of and practical advice that you shared. Very valuable, and I will try to incorporate, or at least like in some like maybe in article you mentioned like to start not with a big project, but start creating PRFAQ at least for something smaller and try like to
Mm-hmm.
polish it and iterate. So I promise I'll try maybe next week to create it to align, because we have a trouble of aligning and understanding who is our customer, who are we building this solution for, because we're like
Yes.
6 months in the MVP and still are in a like
Yeah.
in this different like very weird mode. So I promise I will try out, and I think it will help us to align. So thank you very much for sharing and for this thoughtful adaptation of the framework and spreading it and spreading the word about it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.